Number 2, Louis Pasteur's experiment. In 1859, Louis Pasteur began an experiment to disprove spontaneous generation of bacteria. By this time, scientists knew that dust particles carry bacteria. Pasteur supposed that the bacteria found in spoiled food came from outside the food, possibly on dust particles, rather than from the food itself. He also knew that applying extreme heat would destroy any microorganisms in the spoiled food. Pasteur devised a way of blocking access of contaminated dust particles without eliminating access to air. He used a curved or swan neck on flask in his experiment. In his experiment, he placed meat broth in his curved neck flask. He boiled the broth in order to sterilize it or to destroy all of the bacteria. The flasks were then allowed to cool back down and were stored and observed. The flask remained free of bacteria, which is indicated by a non-cloudy broth. Pasteur then tilted the broth into the curve of the flask with the contaminated dust particles, or he broke off the curved neck of some of the flask. The flasks were stored and observed. In both cases, the broth became teeming with bacteria, which is indicated by the cloudiness of the broth. This proved the broth only contained bacteria when it was exposed to bacteria from the air or on dust particles trapped in the curved neck. Okay, our second analysis is our analysis of Louis Pasteur. Here's your answer bank, which is only for A and G. So the rest of them, you will have two choices. Just like before, my recommendations from Francisco Reddy that you can copy and paste your answers for A and G, or you can put an A or a G beside of the answers. Okay, A is, what is the hypothesis? So the hypothesis is either bacteria in broth comes from contamination by air or dust particles, or if bacteria are prevented from entering the broth, then the broth will be bacteria-free. B, what is the independent variable? You have two choices, a curved neck or presence of bacteria. You can highlight or you can delete an answer. What is the dependent variable? Same choices, a curved neck of the flask or the presence of bacteria. The control group, is it the flask with the curved neck or the flask without the curved neck? What is the experimental group? The flask with the curved neck or the flask without the curved neck? F, what type of data was collected? Was it quantitative or qualitative? And remember, with any of these, you can go back to your scientific method notes. And G, which we're going to use the word bank, what is the conclusion? Is it bacteria in food comes from contamination by air or dust particles? Or is it, if bacteria are prevented from entering food, then the food will not contain bacteria?